Hi, this is Scott with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and installing our TruRyde 10-inch electric brake assembly. And this is a self-adjusting unit, and it is for a 3,500-pound axle. What this is going to be is they are side specific, so you want to make sure that you get the right side that you need if you're just replacing one. Or you can also buy these in a set, which is another way to get them, which is nice. Most of the time, if you're doing something like this and you have one that's going bad or is bad, you might as well just replace the other one, because most of the time the other one isn't far behind and you're going to be right back in there anyway. And if you're doing trailer bearings on both sides, say you're doing all of your bearings and seals and everything, it's a good idea to just do these while you're in there. That way, while everything's apart and out of the way, these are really easy access and way easier to do. Now on our left-hand side here, we do have our bearings and everything off and out of the way. And this brake has been on here for a long time. You can see where it's all glazed and it's just done. On both sides of these pads, it's all shiny and glazed over. And this side has a bunch of grooving and stuff going on. So it's had some stuff get in there and just mess those up. It's got grease behind the pads and everything here from where the seal leaked from our bearings. And the reason we got in here in the first place was because our hub had some wobble in it. So we just went ahead and said, well, let's just replace the bearings. And while we're in here, we'll just do our brakes as well. And we went ahead and got the set, and we're going to have them done on both sides. But for this set, all we have to worry about now is just getting our wires snipped here. And we're going to be getting that re-hooked up with our new ones. And so what we're going to do is we have 4 bolts on the back. And what these are is these are 11/16. So I'm just going to take a wrench and go ahead and get those broke loose, and we'll get this out of the way, and then we'll bring over our new part. Now with these, one thing you want to keep in mind, you are going to be reusing the nuts and washer that are on here. So you do want to make sure not strip them out and kind of be careful with them. And after you get all the hardware out and off of them, what I like to do is kind of clean them up with brake cleaner, and then I'll shoot them with a little bit of silicone spray, and that'll kind of help prevent corrosion in the future and also make them a little bit easier to install. Now we have all the hardware off the back of our plate here. We have 2 wires that run out of our brakes here, and we got them butt connected really close up to my harness here. So what it looks like I'm going to end up doing is just having to get into this tape and expose my main wire that runs to these on the inside here. Now we have these 2 wires out, and this is to our original harness. So what we'll do is we'll just run off of these. Now with our bad tape out of the way, we'll just leave it at that far. And what I'll do, since we're replacing these, I'll just snip these off clean right up next to them. That way it leaves me a little bit of line to work with here and strip back. Now we can pull our brake assembly off. Now when you do this, you want to be careful and do not hit your spindle. Just carefully clear that and get that out of your way. And now that we're at this point, what I like to do is come back through with brake cleaner and just get everything kind of wiped down and get some of this stuff cleaned up, just to make it a good clean installation. Right up here on this point, you're going to get some crusty stuff here where your old seal was. I try and get a lot of that off of there, because this is where your new seal is going to ride, back in this area back here. So you don't really want to have a bunch of this crusty stuff affecting your new seal. So just kind of chip that back as far as you can, just so you have a good clean start for that seal to ride on. And once you get it back a little bit, you should be okay. Just kind of wipe everything down, make sure everything's nice and clean. You don't want any grit or anything in there when you're putting in your fresh bearings. You want to give them a nice, clean, fresh start. Now with everything wiped down, I'm going to go ahead and get my wire stripped back and get ready to install our new brake assembly. And let's get a nice little piece of wire exposed here. We'll do that for both of them. It's usually best to do this while you have it all apart, so you have room to get in here, so you can see what you're doing. Now we've got our wires here to our brake assembly, and these were already pre-stripped off for me, so I just kind of wound these up. So what I'm going to do is pre-assemble out here on the bench, and we have our heat shrink butt connectors we're going to get put in place, and all we do with these is we just push them in until they kind of stop, make sure we got most of our wire covered, and we'll take our pliers and we'll crimp it on. Get those crimped on nice and tight. And anytime you crimp something, you want to make sure you give them a good wiggle, make sure you have a good bite. If you don't, you can always come back through and hit them again, just to be sure. And these heat shrink butt connectors do not come with your kit. We do have them available here at eTrailer, and they're really a recommended option. What these are going to do is you'll hit this with a little heat with your heat gun, and these are going to shrink up around the wire, and it's going to give you a waterproof seal. Now we want to make sure we have the correct side, and here we have left hand, which we are on here, and our magnet's going to be down, and the wider part of our brake material is going to go towards the back of the trailer, smaller towards the front. And our adjuster here, which you see, is the little wheel, and that is your adjustment wheel, and that's going to help get our brakes pushed out to where they need to be riding on the hubs. After you have the initial setup done with these are going to adjust automatically on their own. So keep that in mind. After you get them put on, we are going to have to adjust them. But now we'll get it put in place, and when I do this, I want to make sure I'm not touching any of the brake material here. You don't want to get grease or anything like that on that. So that's another good reason we try and get everything clean with our spindle here. And on the back, all we're going to do is get it lined up with our holes here, and you want to be careful when you're going over your spindle. Make sure you don't get into that. And we'll just get our brake assembly held in place. And we'll get one of our lock washers on, one of our ones on the top. I really like to start with. Just get a nut started, and that's going to help hold everything in place so it doesn't fall off on you. You don't want it to fall off of here and come down and hit your spindle at all. So I just kind of get that started and finger tight as far as I can get it. And I'll go ahead and get the other top one done real quick just while I'm here. All right, now we have everything hand tightened down. So we're gonna take a look at our wires real quick before we tighten everything down. One of the things you wanna keep in mind is the swing of your axle, how much down drop you have and how much up drop you have, and where your wiring harness is located. Where this one is here, I may hang this one up a little bit better because this one's riding on the axle itself. So I'll go ahead and figure out where I want to get this hung up under here just to get it up off the axle so it's not riding on that all the time. Other than that, I believe we're going to have enough wire. We don't have a whole lot of swing in this axle. I think we're going to be okay. Now what I did is I went ahead and got our wire loom all supported up underneath the bed of our trailer here. That's just something, a little maintenance thing that's good to get done. That way it's not chafing our wire. And it also allowed us to get our wires hung up here out of the way. So now what we'll do is we'll just get them crimped in place. One of these is going to be a ground. The other one is going to be for the brake controller itself. So, and on our brake here, this is going to be both wired the same. So it doesn't really matter which one goes to which. So what I'll do is I'll just get it popped in like we did on the bench over there, and we'll just get it crimped in place. Make sure you get a good bite on it. Crimp it down. And check it. Good there. and give it a little pull. Everything good there. Now we'll come back through and we'll shrink these up. Now we're going to take our hub assembly and carefully put it over our spindle. You just want to be careful with it not to nick anything. Get it set in place. Give it a little push back. Now we'll take our bearing, get our bearing put in place. Okay. Give it a little turn back and forth. Get our seal to seat. Now we can take our washer, the spaces on there, goes over our bearing. Now we'll take our nut and just get it started down. Finger tight. Quick spin. Now we have an 1.5 inch socket, and with the electronic torque wrench, we can kind of monitor it as we're going down, but we do want to keep turning it. So we can monitor it while slowly turning. There we beep. So now what we're going to do, what that is for is that's going to seat everything in place that we replaced and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So when you're turning it, that's just making everything sit up where it's supposed to be. It gets your seal in place. It makes sure your braces are all seated up where they're supposed to be. Now what we'll do is we'll back it off without turning it. And we've got it at finger tight here. Now we have the flat spot of our nut keeper here, and we have the flat spot on the spindle of our axle. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn our nut to where it's just finger tight. We're good there. And now we can see if our spacer is going to fit. And it does. So what that's going to do is keep our nut from backing off. Now, we did get a replacement cap for this one because both of our caps were damaged. Ours had the rubber type also here, where you can just pop this out to get it your grease fitting. So we did get new ones for this because the rubber part was all worn out. So we got new ones here. We'll just get those installed. Just want to center it up and just kind of lightly tap them around. Now once we have our brakes on and everything's all good to go there, we're going to have to get them adjusted to just give them a good starting point. So what we'll do is on the bottom of our backing plate on the back of our brakes, there's 2 plugs. What I like to do is pull both of them out, and I'll use the one side just to kind of get some light in there, and I'll use a little shop light and just so I can see where the little wheel is. And then we'll take out both of them, and then you'll see like a little wheel in there, and it has teeth on it. Now what you're going to do is have a buddy just kind of turn it while you're under there, and you're just going to turn that wheel until you get just a little bit of drag. You want just a little bit, and that's going to preset those brakes in there to where they're just up against. Now once you get driving it and everything and you get using your brakes, it's going to self-adjust so you won't have to worry about them anymore. This is just going to be your initial setting to get them started and kind of get them in a location where they need to be so then they can start their process of self-adjusting. All right, it feels like we have a little drag there. Now you can do this with the tire on or the tire off. Sometimes it's easier to do it with the tire on because you can actually get it spinning yourself while you're under here and just kind of turn the wheel under here where you want it to be. Just keep pushing down on the little teeth until you get it where it feels about right. And after you do that, just reinstall your little rubber plugs. And that'll do it for our look and install of our TruRyde electric brakes on our 3,500 pound axle trailer. I'm Scott with eTrailer. Thanks for watching.